Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Psychic medium, jenniferdoran.com, you guys. And hi, Eric. How are you, my lovely boy? We've been working hard this week.
Doing great. Yes. He said you are exhausted. You must be exhausted because apparently you are working really hard this week.
Yeah, I'm tired. And my husband snored the other night. So it's like, oh God, I didn't sleep very much. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So, all right, we're going to talk about, because I was watching on, I think it was Gaia, something about the relationship with fear and disease and the development of disease. And Eric, I know that there's fear. You can live life in fear and you can live life in love. And of course, you want people to choose love. Fear, there are many facets to. There's anger. That's part of fear. Any of the negative emotions, pettiness, jealousy, sadness, fear, any kind of just being afraid, obviously. So, and it seems like a lot of people do develop disease. I know that fear and stress is also a component of fear, raises the cortisol levels. Mm-hmm. And high levels of cortisol can create all sorts of diseases. But anyway, can you tell us all you know about fear and the relationship to disease?
Yeah. So what he's saying is that, basically disease needs certain things to grow. Inflammation, stress, and negative emotions, negative energy puts all that in there. It's actually, he's showing me, I don't know if you ever saw this study, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there was a study done on water bottles with water in them, and they put the positive words on the outside of some bottles and negative words on the others. Have you ever seen this?
I've seen something like it.
And
like
then they froze the water.
Oh yeah.
And basically there's a big difference between the bottles that had the positive energy and positive words on them compared to the negative ones, as far as like they were beautiful. There was like all kinds of intricate whatever in the ice.
Yeah.
And so he says basically it's the same with the body. If there's negative fear energy running through the body, disease can kind of latch on to that and then carry throughout the body.
And so 66 point something percent of our bodies are water, so we don't freeze ourselves.
Move through quickly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So everything, like you were saying, comes from fear or love. Every emotion comes from fear or love. Yes. All the positive stuff comes from love. All the negative stuff comes from fear.
Yeah.
And he says it doesn't mean that people who are very positive and very loving don't get disease, because then there's stuff that's in the contracts and all that kind of stuff. But he says a lot of with the real negative, the real fear living, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be there. More migraines, more colds. There's more of that kind of disease, not necessarily disease that'll kill you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is that too, but other stuff that just runs you down. The gut health, if you live in fear a lot, your gut health is off.
And that is tied to everything, inflammation and all sorts of things systemically in the body. Mm-hmm. Gut health.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
So, what about mental illness? Can that develop because of fear? Of course, anxiety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For somebody who lives in a lot of fear, to slip over into like paranoia, having some of those, having trust issues, mm-hmm. Then leading to isolation, pushing people away, abandonment. Absolutely. Living in fear can create a lot of issues with mental health.
Yeah, I'm sure homelessness is a huge thing of just fear in the collective.
Yep. And on that line, not that every homeless person has an addiction issue, but living in fear a lot can trigger addiction.
Because you want to numb yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then that can lead to a whole bunch of other things. A
little banky. Yeah, I can imagine. So now, so I hear so many people say, but he has cancer. How come all the nice people get cancer? First of all, is that true? And does that mean it's all just contract related or?
Well, I mean, nice and not nice people get cancer. Eric says, it's cancer is not choosy, so to speak.
Okay.
Yes, nice people do get cancer. A lot of times, yes, it's in the contract. It's something that's contracted to happen. Well, he says for people who are kind of negative, sometimes it's contracted to happen, but sometimes it's called to you because of, the fear of the negative energy.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I guess, with really positive people, it would be something contracted. Really nice, really good people, it's contracted. They're not doing anything that's causing it. However, he says sometimes like the food that you're eating, the products that you're using, is another way that like people could get cancer that maybe aren't living in fear.
Right.
By, what they do, living near, the high power lines, this sort of thing. So there's all kinds of other ways that it can happen.
It's very complicated. Are there
Yes.
certain diseases? Let's list some diseases that seem to be attracted or seem to manifest in those who are angry, bitter, jealous, that kind of emotion. I mean, we're going to generalize, obviously. I mean, there's people that don't have emotions that can still get these diseases, but can you name a few?
For some reason, and I was actually a little surprised by this, first one he said was hepatitis.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Which I was surprised by that.
Autoimmune hepatitis or just any kind of hepatitis?
He just says hepatitis.
Okay.
So, well, and then when you ask, he just said autoimmune.
Okay.
Autoimmune issues is another one. So other autoimmune issues is another one that can be triggered by the a little bit
anger.
More drawn, yes, by the anger.
You attack others, you attack yourself, sort of thing.
Yes, heart disease is another one that he says.
What about arthritis? What kind of emotions can lead to various forms of arthritis?
So what he said is actually there's more of a link with sadness.
Oh, okay.
And arthritis. Of course, that still comes from fear.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's still generalized.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
What about diabetes? Oh, maybe there's a difference between type 1 and type 2, but
yeah, yes, he says oftentimes type 1 is a contract.
Okay.
More so than type 2.
Okay.
In comparing right. 1 and 2, type 1 is more often a contract than type 2.
Okay.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Basically what kind of emotions can trigger diabetes? I mean, in generalities, obviously,
Yeah, depression, okay. Sadness.
Yeah.
These are some that are linked more closely with that.
Okay. What about
gut health? Gut health, he's saying gut health is so important.
Yes, babe.
So like what's that with the gut, the leaky gut?
Yes.
Yes, that's a big one that caught that. Yeah. So you got the fear that causes the stress or whatever that causes the leaky gut that causes so much other issues potentially.
Yeah. Well, in the Atlanta Scalar, we do a microbiome optimization for the gut to target leaky gut. So that's something that
that's excellent.
Good idea for everybody to do, really, I think.
Really, yeah.
All right, what about high blood pressure?
High blood pressure is linked to anger.
Anger, yeah, okay. High cholesterol?
Anger.
It's interesting because a lot of people have both of these.
Yep.
What about eyesight problems?
He says eyesight problems comes from actual fear. There's more of a link to the fear, just being afraid, being afraid.
All right.
Interesting. This is all when it's not contracted. This is
all, of course.
Yes. I know there's going to be some people that need to hear that over and over again. These are things that are potentially that you could use your free will to draw to you if they're not in your contract by these negative emotions.
What about hearing loss from just old age hearing loss?
No, he says old age hearing loss is not necessarily linked to fear. So it's
Okay.
linked to the body, the breakdown of the body.
All right.
The human body still breaks down naturally,
sure.
just because of the, earth energy.
So what about, aging overall? I mean, it can speed up dramatically when you're in a lot of stress, or it's the cortisol level or something. I don't know. Well, probably it's at least the cortisol levels, because I remember after Erik died, I lost at least 4 or 5 years off of my life. I aged so drastically. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, and I apologize that he's bringing this up, but he's saying if you go look at some of your first videos when you were doing this, you actually look older there than you do
Oh,
now.
I know. I was just thinking about that this morning.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he apparently was listening to your thoughts and bringing it up. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. He's like, no, say it.
No, it's true. Oh God.
So yes, it can be sped up, but it can be slowed down and reversed. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So when you're living, part of this, he says, is when you're living in that kind of stress, it's actually more the muscle system that like tenses, that creates some of that looking older, that tenseness in the
that
face.
makes sense.
Yes.
Because that would explain the immediacy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I almost died in the tundra, I looked at the video, and it's like, oh, I looked so old there too. Well, I am old, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all muscle.
It's a lot of it is the muscle, the tenseness of the muscles underneath. And then for some reason, he's saying when you're going through a period of time like this, like even if you're drinking what you think is enough water, there's like more dehydration. I guess maybe when your stress levels are super high, you need more hydration.
Oh, maybe.
Is what he's saying. So that contributes to like the skin and stuff looking older when you're going through a very stressful time. So if you're going through something traumatic and stressful, like really up your water intake.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That makes sense. Totally makes sense. What about Parkinson's disease?
Okay, so what he's saying about Parkinson's is that, when it's not contracted, there's anger, there's ego involved there. If you're very, ego's not the right word. I'm always losing words. Arrogance. That's the word. So sometimes if you're very prideful of your appearance, very vain, these sort of things could cause, something like Parkinson's to happen, where you lose certain abilities, and the appearance changes, perhaps to create the ability to become more humble. Oh, hello, Bella.
This is Mommy, I want you. Oh, interesting. Okay, what about dementia, like Alzheimer's?
Again, that one's linked right to fear, paranoia, when it's not contracted. I feel the need. Erik keeps telling me, keep reminding when it's not contracted. So I just keep saying, that's why I keep saying it. So when it's not contracted, that fear, the paranoia, that can also have external issues, diet, that sort of stuff. There can be that sort of stuff as well. With a lot of this stuff, there can be, external factors that
we'll just blankly say,
yes,
when it's not contract, it's X, Y, or Z, and it's more complicated, than. All right, what about heart failure? We talk about heart attacks. What about just regular cardiomyopathy, heart failure?
Stress, anything.
Oh, I can imagine.
Connected to the heart, there's going to be a factor of stress being related to it.
Okay. How about kidney failure, kidney disease?
So fear that could turn to addiction, because alcohol's a big one for liver and kidneys, this sort of thing. So addiction, addiction's not necessarily an emotion. is what he's saying, but it's triggered by a lot of these fear emotions, really any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, stress, fear, just fear itself.
Right. There's a genetics behind it. There's a physicality behind it, but it can be triggered or exacerbated by fear-based emotions.
Yep.
Okay. I'm looking at a list at the same time here. What about strokes, like cerebral vascular strokes?
Again, he says stress is a big factor here.
Okay. So what emotion? Stress is like something that is created by emotion. What emotion would you?
Let's see. Anger.
Okay.
Fear. It's okay. I always, for whatever reason, I associate stress with as an emotion.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right. It's not really.
Yeah, it's probably just something that create emotions and that emotions create.
Yeah.
All right. What about polycystic ovary disease?
So I'm asking, and actually with that one, he's saying oftentimes that is in the contract.
I bet it sounds like it would be mostly contract.
Yeah, it's mostly contract. I can't link an emotion from him to something that would, cause that.
All right. What about cluster headaches?
Anger.
Okay. What about allergies? Any kind of allergies? Allergic to life itself? No, Bella. No. Yeah.
Yes. He says for allergies, when it's linked to emotion, oftentimes it's linked to fear.
Okay. What kind of fear-based? Which of the fear-based emotions?
Crap. Apparently, I need to learn what are emotions and what aren't. Because I'm
no,
like,
you're doing great. Fear-based is anything that's not any emotion that's not love-based. It could be anxiety, depression, pettiness, jealousy.
Okay. So what he's saying with allergies is there's a link with anxiety to that.
Okay.
When it's brought on by fear.
Well, that's interesting because anxiety can provoke eczema in people who tend to get it. So that doesn't surprise me. All right. What about seizures, epilepsy?
Okay, so again, he's saying there's not a huge link with emotion.
Okay.
But however, there is a link with depression. Calling in because depression, he says depression is going to directly affect stuff in the brain.
Right.
And it can trigger seizure issues.
Oh, interesting. And migraines, what did we say? Anger?
Mostly? Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Let me see here. So metabolic syndrome, which is pretty much diabetes type 2, insulin resistance, and hypertension and obesity, especially around the trunk.
Mm-hmm. So what he's actually saying about that is, I don't know what emotion we would tie to this, but like fear of like not being good enough. I don't know specifically what emotion.
Okay.
That would be. So like self-esteem
low
issues.
self-esteem. Yeah.
Self-loathing. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. What about people that tend to get a lot of dental problems? If they have really weak enamel, etc. I mean, they take care of their teeth, but as best they can, but they still have problems.
So what he's actually saying about that is that actually it comes from the pH of your saliva, the pH. This is actually more connected to gut health, and the pH of your saliva is what he's saying. So it would go back to the issues that cause gut health and affect the pH of your saliva.
And the microbiome scalar work takes care of that. So that's
but he's saying specifically when it's teeth. Okay. There's other bone diseases that would affect the teeth, but specifically for the people who just have the teeth issue, it's really more of a gut pH issue.
Yeah. Okay. What about stuttering? Speech impediments. That's probably mostly contract, huh?
It is.
It could be anxiety too, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, it could be, but yeah, he says mostly it's contracted.
Okay. What about acne?
Okay. So he says a lot of times acne, especially for kids, is just contract. It's just hormones.
Okay.
But adult onset acne,
Yeah.
there can be a connection to ego, to anger, as far as that goes.
Okay. That makes sense. What about thyroid? So many people have thyroid issues, low thyroid, mostly hypothyroidism. Is there anything behind that?
Yes, actually, there is when it's it's actually, he says it's connected to anxiety.
Okay.
There's a connection to anxiety for it, and then being in fight or flight. There's a connection to fight or flight in thyroid.
Well, that makes sense. What about baldness, male pattern baldness? Is that contract or?
Yeah, he says that's pretty much contract, but he says really anything that affects the physical appearance can be connected to the ego and vanity.
Right. So it's a lesson in vanity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
What about obesity? Is that also partly a lesson in
yeah, he says actually a lot
self-loathing, probably some self-loathing too.
Yeah, self-loathing, and a lot of times with obesity, it's which I have found this in past stuff I've worked on. Obesity a lot of times is linked to past life issues.
Oh, like they starved in another life or something, maybe?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
interesting.
But it can be, and it can be linked to self-loathing, ego stuff. Yes.
All right. Next on the list, what about asthma?
There's definitely a link with anxiety for asthma.
All right. What about fibromyalgia?
Depression.
Oh, well, yeah, I bet. Okay. I can't remember who said this. Lipid disorders, like people with high cholesterol, high triglycerides.
Yeah, high cholesterol was, we didn't say specifically lipids, but anger.
Oh, anger. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about, so you have these diseases that are at least triggered, maybe exacerbated by fear-based emotions. Mm-hmm. What do we do about that? What are the many options? I mean, I know that there's something called the emotion code that helps get rid of trapped emotions. Mm-hmm. What other options? First of all, can you talk about that? And if not, just
the emotion code.
Yeah. It's some sort of therapy.
Yeah, I do not have enough awareness of what it is.
Okay,
to even have any
idea. Say, Eric, would that work for
it? Yes, yes, it would. So, anything that basically in general, anything that you do that comes from love, anything that makes you happy, that doesn't hurt others. Okay. So any of that loving stuff is going to help with this. Meditation, energy work, the scalar work that you do.
Yeah.
But what Erik says is that oftentimes people aren't very self-aware sometimes. And so they think that they've worked on some of their issues when they haven't.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're still in there internalized.
Yes. So our perception of ourselves and other people's perceptions of ourselves a lot of times are different.
Yeah.
And so finding a way to become more self-aware so that you can really look at your behavior, look at your thought patterns, and actually switch to a more positive thought pattern, a more positive emotion. This is, if you're somebody who's very negative thought based, you're going to need to cognitive retraining. So you're going to need to retrain your brain.
Right.
How to think more positively. So all of these things can help with this.
And also, since self-loathing is such a huge foundation for most disease, then, Erik, you do the Boost in Self-Love scalar service. And that
Yes.
that
Oh,
that seems to
absolutely.
work. People are saying, wow, my kid is like loving himself, things like that. So that's really
Absolutely.
good.
And so one
Um,
other thing he wants to say about like negativity, that we haven't touched on yet. He says, if you're somebody who wants bad things to happen to other people or wishes negative on other people, see, there's a lot of energy right now, especially in this country, of between the politics and between the
yeah.
vaccines and people wishing bad things happening to the other people.
Can negativity negativity, we didn't really talk about that, just being pessimistic about everything and negative about everything. That probably causes, I could see that causing cancer
Cancer.
and
Yep.
arthritis and what other things?
Any disease,
Any
any
disease.
disease like that. But even if you're calling it to somebody else or wishing harm upon somebody else, you're calling it to yourself too.
Yeah. So negativity and collective, can that cause, can that cause you to have disease if there's a lot of negativity in the collective itself?
It
Or
can, yes,
yeah,
yes, it can, especially if you're, um, so if you're very sensitive, you need to be like clearing your, like with the portal work and this sort
yeah,
of thing to clear out like your negative space. If there's any
yeah,
negativity in space, it's very important to do that.
yeah. Anything else? Would sometimes past life regression help to identify triggers from another life for disease
Absolutely,
or
absolutely, because there may be some fears that you don't even realize that you're having. Oh, yes, because so what Erik was just saying, like in particular with the thyroid or anything here, like if you had a past life where you were strangled or had your
oh yeah,
throat slit or hanged,
yes,
you might have so much fear that you don't even understand why. And perhaps it could even be on a subconscious level, because sometimes these fears and these worries are on a subconscious level that just sort of stay in the background, we're not really aware
yeah,
of, but we could be, again, not aware and causing issues, and then this could cause thyroid issues. So absolutely there's a connection to past life and fears that we may not even be aware of.
yeah.
um
Yeah, and neck pain,
mhm.
neck degeneration, that probably could be partly strangulation, hanging, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Or guillotine, beheadings.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. So yeah,
Yep.
so past life regression, I think would be good. And energy healing in general. There are so many energy healers that can get your energy flowing. I think that there's probably a lot of energy blocks in
Yes.
Parkinson's
Yeah.
because
Oh,
you can't
yes.
move. So I bet there was a recent medical journal article that I read about Parkinson's because I have to keep up my medical education,
Yes.
and it said that increased movement like dancing and stuff like that dramatically improves Parkinson's patient
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's so there, that's another good point, because sometimes like with fibromyalgia, okay, fibromyalgia, sometimes people are very sensitive to being touched, but actually deep tissue massage can be very helpful. So sometimes it's like you kind of want to do things that are counterintuitive. When you have arthritis, you don't want to move because your joints hurt, but moving is better for it. So
Yeah,
sometimes knowing really, I almost put my mouth out. Knowing sometimes those out of the box ways of
yeah,
like healing is a very good idea.
yeah. I mean, I know there are many like rheumatoid arthritis. It's worse in the morning when but when you start moving, then your joints loosen up, and I
Yes.
guess it's all energy. The energy starts to flow in your
Mhm.
body, in your joints, etc.
So Erik is showing me something that I don't know what this is, but I will tell you. So he's talking about like electrodes all over the body that are like circling energy through the body.
Okay.
Like on a, I feel like there's electrodes hooked up all over, and I have like a pad that I can push to cycle them through. Do you know what a
Oh,
TENS unit is?
yeah, TENS unit. Yeah.
It feels sort of like that, but not just like in a specific area, kind of like all over the body. I don't even know if this is something that's being used right
Yeah.
now.
Is it something that exists now, Eric?
Um,
Technology
I,
that's in
I feel
use?
like I do feel like it is. I just don't know if it's on a
Okay.
mass scale. Like, so I don't know if
Oh,
it's like being tested or stuff. But he says this is going to be very effective. But I also feel like there's like acupuncture needles that have like electrodes
oh
on
yeah.
them, and he
Okay.
says that is being used now.
Okay, good.
acupuncture needles that push electricity
Interesting.
into the body. So he's saying that there's going to be something really with electricity. Of course, everybody won't be able to use that, especially like with heart issues, but there's something of this
Pacemakers,
nature
yeah.
that's
Okay. What about sound therapy?
yep, very effective for some people.
Okay.
He
Is there
says
any
it will
particular
raise your
types of?
vibration.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
says what you're doing is you're going to take any of these ways to help you, and what you're looking to do is raise your vibration.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do that raises our vibration naturally puts us into a state of love more. Okay. So
that makes sense. And that's what,
yep.
that's what the used to be called super portal work with increased vibration. But now, since so many people say, what are portals? We just say the energy repair, protection, because they're shielding, and enhancement. So
Yes.
that it's just, we renamed it. Erik told me to. So,
Yeah.
So that takes care of the increased vibration. Erik, I was just wondering, do people have to do that service? Like you have to go to your teeth, the dentist, and do your teeth every 6 months. Do you have to do this like every 1 or 2 years, or is it permanent? Is it truly permanent?
So what he's
I
saying
mean,
is that
people accrue energy blocks and stuff with stress, with trauma, with being on a computer, cell phone.
so what he's saying to me is that for some people it is permanent, because once their vibration is raised high enough, they're able to maintain themselves. Do you know what I'm saying? But he says for other people, it is going to be something that needs to be redone, because if you had this done and you're doing great, but then you have a really bad car accident, and you fall into a depression, and then there is the chance that stuff builds up again that needs to be cleared out. So he's really saying it's a case by case situation. Does that make sense? Are you finding that with what you're doing?
I haven't. It hasn't been around long enough yet.
Okay.
But
like if you're doing great and you've done the work on somebody, and then they go through a really horrible divorce and they lose the kids, it's going to cause more negativity. Their vibration is going to lower, which is going to make the possibility of portals opening up or things attaching to them. It's going to make it possible again.
Erik, do you want me to create? Do you want together to create something like a refresh service for people that's low cost?
Yeah. So what he's saying is,
instead of having them redo the whole thing.
Yeah, like
they need to do that.
Well, so what he's saying is, for people who've already done the big one, you might never need to do the big one again, but you might need to do tune-ups, is what he's calling them to me. So for people who've already done this one, you wouldn't offer the tune-ups to people who haven't already done the full thing. Does that make sense? Right. Is kind of what he's saying.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Fear related to disease, etc. Fear-based emotions leading to disease?
Well, other than just that, it really can. If it is in your free will to get or not get diseases, you really truly can call disease to you that you don't need to have by living in fear.
No. So guys, keep your vibration up. There are ways that you can get rid of your own energy blocks, because I had a YouTube on that on the Atlanta Scalar YouTube channel. So look at that to try to help yourself. And then probably what you're saying, Erik, is that for those who have disease or want to prevent disease, the microbiome optimization and the boost in self-love are probably, along with the step 1, which is the energy repair, protection, and enhancement. That's probably the way to go, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, you guys, look how awesome Jennifer is. Jennifer, anything you want to say except your website?
Thank you.
Psychic medium, JenniferDoran.com.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for this. And thank you, Erik. I love you both.
Love you. Love you.
Love you all out there. Bye.
Bye.